Welcome back to Practical Apologetics, where we give clear answers to everyday Christians with real questions. I'm Kenneth Willis. Last time, in Part 1, we looked at the beginning of the universe. We looked at the reality of moral law, and we concluded that a timeless, spaceless, immaterial, powerful, personal cause of that universe, what we call God, exists. Today we ask a follow-up question. Actually, two follow-up questions. Does science confirm that conclusion? Does the physical world point in the same direction? Before we jump in, I want you to know where this material is coming from. I've used the following books to develop this episode. Reasonable Faith by William Lane Craig. I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by Norman Geisler and Frank Turek. Evidence That Demands a Verdict by Josh McDowell and Sean McDowell. The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel. And Who Moved the Stone by Frank Morrison. If you want to go deeper into any of this, those are excellent resources, and I've added them to the episode description so you can find them easier. Now let's talk about science. Some people assume that the more science advances, the less room there is for God. But that assumption simply isn't true. James Tour, a nanoscientist, once said, "Only a rookie who knows nothing about science would say science takes away from faith. If you really study science, it will bring you closer to God." And Werner Heisenberg, one of the pioneers of quantum physics, reportedly said, "The first gulp from the glass of natural sciences will make you an atheist, but at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting." The point isn't that science proves Christianity. The point is this: surface-level knowledge may create doubt, but deeper study often reveals order, precision, and structure that demand explanation. Let's look at one of the clearest examples. In Part 1, we argue that the universe had a beginning. Now we ask, what kind of universe began? Modern physics has revealed something remarkable. The universe isn't just existing. It's finely tuned for life. Certain physical constants must fall within incredibly narrow ranges. For example, the cosmological constant, which governs the expansion rate of the universe, is fine-tuned to about 1 part in 10 to the 1/20th power. That's a 1 followed by 120 zeros. If it were larger by even a tiny fraction, the universe would expand too fast for galaxies to form. If it were smaller, the universe would collapse back on itself. To give you some sense of how small that number is, imagine covering the entire state of Texas with silver dollars. Not just one layer. Stack them up about 2 feet across the entire state. Now mark one of those coins with a red X. Blindfold someone. Let them walk anywhere in the whole state of Texas. Let them reach down and pick up one coin. The odds of them picking up the marked coin are roughly 1 in 10 to the 17th power. But the cosmological constant isn't fine-tuned to 1 part in 10 to the 17th power. It's closer to 1 part in 10 to the 1/20th power. That's not just unlikely. That's beyond astronomical. Or take gravity. If the strength of gravity were altered by even 1 part in 10 to the 40th power, stars like our sun wouldn't exist. No stars means no heavy elements. No carbon, no chemistry, no life. This isn't religious language. It's physics. Now, there are only 3 broad explanations: physical necessity, chance, or design. Physical necessity doesn't work because there's no known law forcing those constants to have these values. Chance struggles because when you're talking about probabilities like 1 part in 10 to the 120th power, you're not talking about something merely unlikely. You're talking about something beyond realistic random expectation. So many turn to a multiverse. The idea is this: if there are infinite universes, eventually one would be life-permitting by chance. That sounds scientific, but here's the problem. We don't have direct observational evidence of other universes, and some physicists acknowledge this. Physicist Paul Davies wrote, "One may find it easier to believe in an infinite array of universes than an infinite deity, but such a belief must rest on faith rather than observation." That's important. The multiverse doesn't eliminate faith. It relocates it. So the real question becomes, which explanation requires less speculation? An unobservable infinity of universes, or an intelligent cause. The universe looks less like an accident and more like intentional design. Now let's move from cosmology to biology. Life isn't just complex, it's informational. Inside every living cell is DNA. DNA functions like a coded language. It contains digitally stored instructions that direct cellular machinery. The amount of information inside even a single human cell is staggering. If you were to write out the DNA code from one cell in English letters, it would fill thousands of pages. And that code isn't random. It's arranged in precise sequences that produce functional proteins. To put this in perspective, imagine taking a 500-page instruction manual and randomly rearranging every single letter in that manual. What are the odds you'd accidentally produce a coherent, meaningful set of instructions? Not just words, not just sentences, but detailed functional information. That's what DNA is. It's not just chemistry, it's specified information. Now here's the key issue. Before we even talk about how life changes over time, we have to ask a more basic question. How did life begin at all? We've never observed life arise from non-life. There's no empirical demonstration of a self-replicating, information-rich cell forming from purely undirected chemical processes. Origin of life research proposes chemical pathways and theoretical models. But even with the most advanced laboratories in the world, staffed by brilliant chemists and biologists equipped with precision instruments, purified materials, and tightly controlled conditions, scientists have not produced a single living cell from non-living chemicals. In fact, many origin of life experiments require carefully designed setups and intelligent intervention just to simulate portions of the proposed processes. As Geisler and Turek point out in I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, if intelligent scientists using deliberate design haven't been able to generate spontaneous life, it at least raises a serious question. Is it reasonable to assume that unguided chemistry accomplished what intentional intelligence has not? Chemistry explains bonding. It doesn't explain instruction. Biochemist Michael Behe once said, "The result of investigating life at the molecular level is a loud, clear, piercing cry of design." And molecular biologist Michael Denton, who was not writing as a Christian, observed, "The complexity of the simplest known type of cell is so great that it is impossible to accept that such an object could have been thrown together suddenly by some kind of freakish, vastly improbable event. Such an occurrence would be indistinguishable from a miracle." That doesn't prove the God of the Bible, but it does show that the problem of life's origin isn't a simple one. Even scientists who aren't arguing for Christianity recognize the extraordinary complexity involved. Life doesn't just look complicated, it looks structured, it looks directed, it looks engineered. Again, not proof in a mathematical sense, but powerful evidence. There's something else we often overlook. Not only is the universe finely tuned, it's mathematically intelligible. The universe operates according to consistent, discoverable laws. Gravity follows equations. Light follows equations. Quantum behavior follows equations. Why? Why does the universe obey laws at all? Laws aren't physical objects. You can't trip over the law of gravity. You can't weigh Maxwell's equations. Laws describe order. They reflect structure. They reflect rationality. And here's the deeper question. Why should the universe be understandable to the human mind? Why should mathematics, something abstract, map onto physical reality so precisely? The fact that the universe is ordered and intelligible suggests that the source is rational. You don't get rational laws from chaos. You don't get deep mathematical structure from randomness. You get rationality from mind. Let's bring this together. In part 1, we saw the universe had a beginning, and morality points to a lawgiver. In part 2, we've seen the universe is finely tuned, life contains information, and the laws of nature reflect deep rational order. Philosophy points to God. Science doesn't remove him, it reinforces the conclusion. Belief in God isn't a blind leap. It's a reasonable conclusion based on cosmology, biology, and the structure of reality itself. But here's the next logical question. If a creator exists, how could we possibly know anything about him? In episode 3, that's what we'll explore next, when we answer the question, is the Bible reliable? And remember, faith isn't believing without evidence. It's trusting where the evidence leads. Join me next time on Practical Apologetics.